Welcome back to Pipeline to Profit, the podcast where we talk about the systems, strategies, and processes that help companies turn pipeline into real, measurable revenue. I'm your host, Heather Davis Lamb, founder of Revenue Ops, and today I'm joined by Billy Kenyon and Lisa Miller from Ladybugz. Ladybugz is a digital agency that helps companies build strategic, high-performing websites and digital experiences. Their work sits at a really interesting intersection of design, marketing, SEO, AEO, credibility, and growth, which makes them a perfect guest for this conversation. Today, we're talking about why your website is more than just a pretty front door for your business. It can be a revenue engine, a trust builder, a conversation tool, and in some cases, a critical part of your investor or partner story. Billy and Lisa, thank you both so much for joining me. To start, I'd love for you both to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Lisa Miller. So I'm the founder of the company. I've been in the digital space my whole career, almost 30 years. And Ladybugz is my last and most recent venture, and hopefully will take me into the rest of my ending career. It's been a really great ride so far. And part of that journey was hiring Billy.
Hey, my name is Billy. I'm Ladybug's COO here, working and partnering with Lisa. I like to joke that I love our color-coded Excel spreadsheets and a really good to-do list. So all that project management is there. I've been with Ladybugz now just over 5 years. It was a COVID career change. Lisa's been someone that I've known for well more than 5 years, from almost when I just graduated college years ago. And she's always been on my list of people I wanted to work with. COVID happened, we gave her a call, and what seemed like a natural partnership, here we are.
That's fantastic and so great to have you both here today. I'm just
Thank you.
wondering, can you both each share a little bit about your role at Ladybugz and what you particularly focus on from a day-to-day perspective?
From a day-to-day perspective, that's always changing. Originally, when I had founded the company, a lot of my work was based around building the company, building the processes, trying to figure out how to meet clients' needs and everything that we offer. So today, I continue with that role, trying to elevate, trying to evolve, trying to come up with new ways to help clients and, also move along with the speed of AI. And, I have a specialty in digital marketing. So a lot of that I'm still doing for ourselves in business development and sales. So that's pretty much what I do at Ladybugz.
She's also skipping the fact that she is a genius when it comes to that digital marketing and that search engine and AI engine optimization. She also, in terms of running the company, doing it all for ourselves, helps oversee all of our team here with the digital marketing side, using the same tools that we use for us as a company. She's helping our clients learn how to use those and are teaching our team how to use those and imparting that knowledge on there because that's one of her many genius zones, really. How do you get found through SEO, through AIO, and everything? For me, I end up more on the website project side of the business. I do a lot of our project management. I might come in the middle of the sales process with Lisa, kind of just so people can meet the team that they'd be working with, and then helping with the contracts, getting that signed. I like to joke from an operations side. One of the best things that I ever heard is as a salesperson, your job's to get the contract signed and get that initial deposit in. And while it's not always about the money, that is something that I think is important to make sure we have the process for. And then I work with the clients through the whole process, working with the designers and the team, as well as our clients, to let everyone really focus on what they do best while I'm there making sure things just go smoothly, stay on time, stay on task, and on budget.
Oh, that's great. And so for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with Ladybugz, can you give us the quick version about who you are, what you do, and the types of companies that you normally work with?
Yeah, absolutely. We were born out of a bunch of other people working at other agencies, including myself. And it just started as freelancing for me after I exited a previous agency that I partly owned. So I never really thought I was going to build an agency again, but it just kept evolving. And as it did, I really felt some different needs that when you're smaller, you can address versus when you're a company and you already have a process. So I got to build the ground up for a new agile process, how we build websites. And we do focus on certain types of companies. In the beginning, it started with a lot of biotech and biotech founders, early stage biotech, early growth biotech. And now it's sort of grown into mostly nonprofits, schools, some B2B, and that allows us to work with those. They're not always founders, but leaders that are trying to go through these different changes and move into a different space or level or trying to grow, whatever that might be. It's a rebrand, it's a new messaging, it's just an up level altogether. They're going public, like different things like that. And then, so that's the website side that we developed sort of to be our own process, our own different way that we approach projects. And then we also do the support around that and helping those companies keep those websites, at top performance and making sure that they're always looking amazing while their investors are on there or their audience is on there. And then supporting through digital marketing also. So we do those sort of three things in a bucket. And I think most digital agencies do that. It's just that everybody has their own niche. Everybody has like their own process and who they do best with. And those are the clients that we do the best with. So we're very proud of the work we do, the clients we have. And we do also help a lot of, growing businesses in Massachusetts in terms of like whether it's a multi-family owned plumbing company or like a dentistry or medical practice, but we tend to help the more growing people that have like 1, 2, 3 practices or businesses and helping them get to that next level of growth. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Lisa kind of hit it on the head right there, is we deal a lot with companies that something in their business is saying it's time for a growth. It's something shifting, whether it's a biotech that's ready to go public, one that's ready to like look for its next round of funding, a client that might be opening up a second location. Something in there, whether it's a small thing like a new CEO, but something is changing, that moment of growth, and they want to make sure they're reflecting who they're going to be as they work on their digital presence.
That's great to know about, and appreciate both of you sharing that. Now, one of the items that stood out to me when we initially had our prep conversation was this idea that a website cannot just be beautiful. It needs to have a strategy underneath it. And for me, that really resonates from a RevOps perspective because we think a lot about how every part of the customer journey contributes to revenue. And the website is often one of the first places that a journey begins. So when you say that a website needs strategy underneath it, like what do you mean by that?
A lot of the things that we do is there's so many templates out there that people can use. Those are great. And we have clients that come to us with templates and everything, but those are really designs that then you're putting your content into. Yeah, you'll put your images and stuff in there. What we do is we really want to make sure that we understand the client's message, who they are, what they're doing, and their content and how they want to position themselves. And what we do is we get that content with them first and work with it so that it's a content informed design. And so we get at least their outline of, hey, what do you want to say here? What is this page going to represent? Who is this page speaking to? Then we do the design for it so that that content's really informing the design. And then we'll put it all together. And so then the content might change a little bit, the design might change, but that's where that agile process that Lisa spoke about really comes into play, is that we have this start and then it's working together to find it. So that strategy underneath, you say a lot of the time that you shouldn't be able just to swap a logo on a website and to your competitor and have it look just like your competitors. Our goal is to make sure that even if that logo somehow isn't there or something gets swapped, that there's enough of you, your brand, different elements of your brand, and it sounds so much like you that it couldn't be a competitor's website. It is so uniquely yours. And that really comes through that during that process that Lisa developed during our agile process and starting with your message, who you are, your brand, and creating this look and feel.
Now that sounds great. And then kind of thinking along those different types of lines here, what are some of the most common mistakes that maybe other companies make when they approach a website redesign?
I think a lot of the time it's how they think about their website. A lot of companies come in, they're just like, I just want a nicer website. That's easy to do. I see agencies out there, they design your website, they'll give you an example for free in a week. Like having that sort of attitude towards like, oh, I just want something that looks better, not knowing your goals, not knowing who you are, not getting inside of your head and understanding your vision is probably the biggest mistake. People not thinking that part through, just thinking, I need a website, I'm hiring a web company, here, do it. Because then you just end up creating what they want to create versus what you want to create. What really spoke to me was when people would get to the end of a website project. In the past, when I've worked at other places, they would go back and be changing things during the QA process, things that should have been addressed way earlier in the process. And then you're going over budget, you're going over scope, you're going over time, and that's your fault as the agency. Those are the things that you need to address in the beginning. And I think there's this kind of mindset of let's get everything up front, let's put it all together, and then let's just build it. Between all of those things, there's so many ways you could go wrong. And once you develop it, going backwards is really tough. So spending that time, bringing your senior team leaders in, spending a little bit more of your budget on that versus just trying to get everything done fast or just trying to get it done. And for us, if a leader isn't that interested in the design, they're not a good client for us. As an agency, when someone's like, just do my website, I don't really care, or just you do it, it's just a red flag. As an agency, you have to be very careful about who you choose as a client because your clients can hurt you the same way you can hurt a client. So if we get a client that's not a good fit or doesn't fit into our process or doesn't value what we do, then they're unhappy in the end. That only hurts us. Like Billy said, it's not about money. It's about finding the right clients. It's about doing the right job for them, setting them up for success and making sure that they are successful. And that was always in the beginning. I just want them to feel like they got it. They heard me. They understand where we're going. And I think a lot of that also reflects in the fact that we've been in business now for almost 6 years. So now we're doing redesigns for people that we did their sites 5 or 6 years ago. And so I think that's as an agency who you want to be. You
Yep.
want to be that leader to them.
And I think that comes through, if we talk about the partnership we have with our clients and the trust. And I think that's really where Lisa's getting to too in that beginning is establishing the trust. I say to our teams and people all the time and our clients on one of the first things is we aren't experts in your company. We're going to feel like part of your team by the end of the process, but you are the expert in your company. You know who you are, you know your voice, you know your customers. We are going to absorb and we are going to learn. And we really respect that from you. And we hope on the flip side that you respect the fact that we know best practices with websites. We know how to help you with that search engine optimization, that AI optimization. We know what's going to work with designs. We know how out of the box you should be, or if you want to be out of the box, while still keeping some things in the box, because that's how people interact with websites. I say a lot of the time, I want the clients to tell us, hey, you hit this out of the park. That's awesome. Or, hey, you missed it a little bit. That's not exactly how we are. Well, at the same time, I want us to feel comfortable saying, hey, that's a wonderful idea. Absolutely, we're going to be able to implement that. Or, "Mm, tried something like that before on this and it didn't work out right. So we're going to recommend this instead. And that ability to really support and grow with each other builds that trust, builds that collaboration. And I think one of the reasons why people come to Ladybugz and end up picking us is because during that sales process, Lisa's building trust with them. They're seeing the experience, they're seeing our other sites. Then, usually towards the end, Lisa brings in myself or the designer. So they're getting to meet their team. That trust starts even before something is signed. And then that carries through the project, through the support, and through, as Lisa said, iterations and kind of next steps, evolutions.
Great points all around that you've brought up now about website design and why we have this website. And I want to dive a little bit more into the sales processes piece that you all are talking about. One complaint that I hear from a lot of folks that we work with in the revenue operations space is They say, I'm putting out Google ads, I'm getting plenty of people who come to my website. Why am I not getting any sales? I'm wondering, is it because they're not truly thinking about conversion when they're designing their website? And what type of issues could you face if you're driving a lot of traffic to a website, but you don't have the right content here? What do you think that type of impact would have for these companies?
That's something Lisa and the digital marketing team deal with literally every day. It's not necessarily always about the volume, it's about the right people. So I'll toss that over to Lisa to talk a little bit more about that. But it's the right people, not all of the people.
Yeah, I hear a lot about search intent, and AI has just up leveled what search intent really means. It means people are putting in 5 different questions before they find you, or 5 different qualifications. Like they might type in, I'm looking for someone in Boston, I'm looking for someone women owned, I'm looking for someone who does this industry. They will drill down to what they're looking for. And you don't really have that ability with ads. You're guessing, you're going after the terms that Google search is giving you, and you don't have a ton of options. It's not like you can do those drill down searches. So again, those ads are going to put you at the top of the funnel, or where people are just sort of inquiring and looking to talk to someone, not necessarily immediately looking to engage. I find at our agency, most of the people that come in are ready to engage. They know what they want it now. And, we're usually scheduling out project within a few weeks of the sales process. And, larger companies, yes, they can take, 6 months to close and stuff like that. But for the size of the companies, mostly we're working with from day to day, they're ready to go. Even if you are doing ads, I think it's really important to have landing pages that really speak to your audience so they will convert. And so many companies make that mistake of not doing that and just linking it to a page. If you're going to spend thousands of dollars on ads, you may as well spend a little bit of money on creating a page for that specific audience. If I'm going to do ads for biotech, I want to make sure I have a page that's speaking to them, that's answering all their questions at once, and making sure that that's going to be a good lead before they contact you. So you're almost like filtering out your bad leads before they even get to you. The customer you don't have is the customer that you may never know even came to your site or checked you out. With analytics now, it's very hard to gauge real numbers. I feel like it's moving towards a trend. Instead of like looking at the numbers on your website, I mean, conversions and stuff like that you can measure is great if you're doing ads. But in general, you're going to be looking at trends with the level of privacy that's going on. So you just want to see things going up. You want to see leads going up. You want to see your keywords going up. And you can really only do that from a trend level. Again, you can do some of the analytics, but if you have a privacy policy on your website that's 30 to 60% of your users are not being measured, then that is a trend. Like that's not real numbers. So that's just overall where things are moving towards. And as an agency, how we've done a good job of getting our right clients. It's like when somebody comes to you and they're like, I want you to do my website. I'm looking for somebody that's done websites in this space, and you're trying to win that website. You've never done a website in that space. You can probably do a great job at it and you might win. But for the most part, they're going to pick somebody they resonate with. I mean, you might have another client they resonate with, so that could work. But in general, they want to know that you've done it, you've been there, been somewhere they've been or with a client. And so I think that's why it's so important to make sure that your website is speaking to the right people at the right time, the right way. That's different for everyone. Ads for us are not the greatest revenue driver. For some clients or other companies, they're a great revenue driver. So every company is going to be different.
I think what I also just heard Lisa saying was that the ads work best when also supported by strategy on your website. That bringing a Google ad might bring a ton of people there, but if your website's not doing what it should be doing, you might not see that conversions. So having that strategy with your content, with who you're talking to, and the back end SEO and the AIO, there's a lot of different things that Lisa and the team really work on. That's back end stuff that brings the strategy that not a lot of companies always talk about when they talk about search engine optimization and AI optimization that needs to happen to help leads coming in both from the ads and organically. Because an organic client is probably closer down to the funnel. They might have searched, as Lisa said, Boston, women owned, this or that. That making sure that your site has both, if you are doing those ads, I think is really important to make sure that you're hitting those right people.
That sounds great. Now, on that same line here, I know that your team has mentioned in the past that one of your areas of expertise is helping companies think about how they get found. And so this is kind of the discussion that we're having. Like, people are coming to the website, right? And they're using SEO, and we've definitely talked about that, but they're also using AEO. And I think a lot of people don't really know what AEO is. And also, a
Mhm.
lot of people don't really understand SEO beyond just a basic level. And a lot of these topics and these items to consider when it comes to designing your website are really new for some of these business leaders. I'm wondering, can you explain a little bit more about what AEO is and why some of those companies should be paying attention to it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say last year, 80% of our leads came from AI. So a foundation of our marketing always is brand building, and AI is the perfect candidate for that. So if you're a company that's been brand building for years, AI is going to really favor you. And I know they say, answer questions and do all that stuff, but you've already done that a lot of the time if you're brand building. If you're talking about your processes, if you're talking about what you do, if you're talking about the awards you've won, AI is really about that. It's about the AI going out there, looking at all the different factors and coming up with an answer. Whereas search is looking for words and looking for intent of those words and bringing you back to a website. It's not really putting together a puzzle the way that AI is. Because I've been doing this for so long, I've seen so many trends and algorithm updates and different stuff like that. So it is very trendy in terms of like 1 month, you might be doing very well at the top of the searches and the AI searches, and then the algorithm will change. You could be on page 2 again. And as the algorithm or the AI powered search tends to even out and be more stable, you'll find yourself back up there. I see all these companies building these different landing pages for Boston this or Boston that, and just having content on there just to get that search in Boston. And someone's looking in Boston, they're not in Boston. Before, let's say 6 months ago, that type of thing was being favored because it was looking at it like it was geographical. But as the algorithm tended to balance itself out, I see all of those gone. So you need to be doing your SEO, your AEO mindfully. You need to be thinking about the future. You need to be thinking about what you look like as a brand. Are you a spammy brand? Or is that who you want to be? If you say you're someone, you need to prove that you're someone. If you say you do websites in a certain industry, you need to show that you do those and not just that you're trying to get that search. And that's the stuff that AI knows. It will tell you this company's done 30 websites in this brand. And so I stand by my brand building. Like, I don't even call it AI. I don't call it SEO. I call it brand building and speaking to your customers, getting them the right content, and AEO with the question and answers. You don't have to have a physical question and answer in your blog post or your website. I know people put those 5 at the bottom, usually because that's what AI tells them to do. But I think that practice, if everybody's doing it, how do you stand out? If everybody's answering the same question, and if you go into AI and you do searches, you'll see it will pull out excerpts from people's content that are not questions. So as long as you're answering the question, you don't have to really have like those 5 questions at the bottom. It says they help you, but I don't really know. I can't say whether or not I've seen that really help content. But having the right information there, having the right content, answering those questions in a way that's more natural, I think is what's really going to help people, just being authentic. One thing we're seeing in the agency space, as lots of people are saying, is private equity. People being bought by private equity, having lots of money to put their ads together, really drive leads. What I've seen with this is really non-ethical marketing. Um, so one thing I saw was there's an agency that got private equity and they built a website and they put a page up for every single agency in the US, basically anybody who had any type of standing on the search engines. And they did a page for every single one comparing, saying they were better at this, they were better at that. I think that hurts your brand. When you're saying you haven't worked with this agency, you don't know anything about them, they're saying you have more reviews when really the agency has more reviews, than you're lying basically. And you're trying to build traffic off another brand. And I know people do that even in bigger brands, but I think that that's the kind of stuff that's going to hurt you, not help you. Because Google does see what people are doing when they're on there, how they're interacting and stuff like that. And I think anybody who has half of a brain is going to see that and be like, this is ridiculous. Like, you want to be a brand, you want to be authentic. If you do 1 million websites a year, and like, just be that, own that. Be like, we're the biggest web company. We do the most websites, not trying to compare yourself to everybody and trying to discredit everybody because you're just discrediting yourself. And I think also there's going to be legal things around moving forward. I think people are going to be tired of people stealing their content, stealing their messaging, stealing their things. And I think we're already seeing some lawsuits around ChatGPT for that. And again, it's not even really ChatGPT doing it, it's other companies. ChatGPT is just like picking up on it. So it's going to be really interesting to see like where that goes.
One of the things that, as Lisa was talking about, that trust building, that brand building, I think it's important to note SEO, AEO, and this brand building is not a one and done. That I think that's the really, really important thing. Your website, your brand should be something, a living, breathing thing that you are constantly working on. For companies to say, okay, I want to do SEO, there's some checklist stuff that you could do to make sure you have stuff. But to get true AEO, SEO, to get found in those searches, as Lisa was saying, building up, she's been building the Ladybugz brand for years. So there's all that content out there. That's how you truly get found on these. Is it's not a one and done. Unfortunately, we can't do something with your website and have you magically show up on everything. If we could, we'd be making a whole lot more money and there'd be a whole lot of other stuff out there. But it's this continuous process that involves monthly updates, bi-monthly updates, and telling your story and being authentic. And that's the part where I think partnering with an agency and working with someone allows people to be a little bit different. If you're a marketer for a tool company or for a biotech, you're not necessarily a marketer on your website. So working with companies that really specialize in that, I think is how you tell that story monthly and get that out there and build that brand building with you is where kind of that partnership comes in because it's unfortunate, it's not a one and done. And that's how things get built up and the AIs all build up that history.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. And so, thinking about that, how do you balance writing for search engines, answer engines, but also real human buyers?
You want to provide your customers or potential customers with information and tools that's going to help them either make decisions, help them maintain whatever they're doing, give them some sort of guidelines around how to do things. And then when they're ready, they'll call the right people. There is no writing for search engines anymore, to be honest. I mean, you're writing for humans now. And I think at Ladybugz, we've always been writing for humans and trying to help people understand what they need and what they do. And that content that is written for search engines, that's the content that I'm talking about, that with this last algorithm, it's gone. These people are just going to continue to get pushed off. Google does this. It rolls out these updates and it's been doing it for 30 years. I've seen that same update every 5 or 10 years. Even though it's a different algorithm now and it's all different, I've seen the same things happen where people get kicked off, they get back on. And the thing is, if you do get bumped down and you do things authentically and there is an update, just be patient. You can't control Google, unfortunately. So you're going to have to understand there's going to be ebbs and flows just from the algorithm. Even if you're doing everything right, it still sometimes pushes you down and then it just keeps filtering, and then eventually you'll go up a lot of times. It doesn't happen every time, but it is a trend that I do see. So you're writing for humans, you're answering human questions, and the SEO side is really things like backlinking, making sure that everything works, that the speed is there, but just getting links on social and different things like that just to get the content out there. And there's the technical SEO. Speed is a big thing. So there's that side of things too. But if your content is there and it's talking to your customer and they're looking for it, they will find it.
Thank you, Lisa. Billy, one thing that I know you and I have talked about in the past that I thought was really interesting was that not every website has the exact same job. I think you even just recently mentioned biotech companies. For some companies, websites about getting leads in, right? And for others, though, like biotech companies, the website may be more about credibility, investor confidence, and trust. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the difference between like a lead generation website and a trust building website?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things is both of them just need to feel authentic. Even if you're a B2C website or a B2B website and you're selling something, you still need to feel authentically you because people are right now searching so many things and doing so much research ahead of time before they call you. You need to feel authentic. They need to build trust no matter what. But we definitely have some of our biotechs, for example, if they're doing a website update because they're about to try and launch another $150 million raise, they need to make sure that they look like a company that's worth $150 million. So it's making sure that things look custom. It's making sure that things look branded, as we were talking about earlier. How do we make sure that this site carries their brand, their look, their feel throughout everything? How do we then make sure that their website matches the pitch deck so that elements come through? So if they are talking to an investor, does your PowerPoint template give that same look and feel as your website does? Does that then carry over to your LinkedIn and to your social media to show that cohesiveness that people that are looking and are investing in these, they want to see companies at that level. They want to see something unique. They don't want to see templates because a template isn't worth necessarily the $150 million that they're trying to go and get. So they want to see that you've put money, both obviously to your science, at the same time, investing in themselves and investing in their brand. And that's something that was one of our focuses when Ladybugz in this iteration really started was how do we give those clients that want websites that reflect that $100 million, $150 million investment or level, but give it to them at a price point that really works because they are balancing how much can I invest in my science versus how much can I invest in my company. It really goes to that trust and making sure that it feels authentic, that your blogs, if you're blogging, that they sound like you, they sound there. And they're answering, as Lisa was just saying, the questions that people want to have. Companies have so many stories that they could be telling, or they were at an event, or they were doing this, or someone from the company just won an award. Those stories build that authenticity. They build that brand. So that's on the other side. And then as these biotechs are growing, telling those stories, making sure it looks really good. And we have our clients, we have one client that came, we did a beautiful site for them. They loved it. 6 months later, they had a huge breakthrough in their science that they needed to do some adjustments on their website. So, okay, 6 months later, we did level to that next level. And so that as they got new people in, it was really telling what they wanted to be telling and the story they wanted to be telling. Well, we always say, don't give away your secret sauce until everything's patented.
Good call there. Now, you've talked a lot about things that will help build trust when on a website. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe some of the signs that a website is unintentionally hurting trust?
Lisa, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah. So I think that if you don't have any authentic, authoritative content on your website, that can really hurt you. Like you see a lot of these websites that I was speaking about earlier, like we do this, we do that, but they're not showing you that they do it. That can hurt your brand if you don't have the proof that you're talking about, because then you're basically misrepresenting yourself. And so word gets around, like if let's say a biotech company goes to another agency and they say they do biotech sites and they show them too, and they're not even anything close, they're going to tell other people that. A lot of them are recurring companies. They change companies that they go to. They're investors. And so they know who the good agencies are and they know who the not so great agencies are. And so they know who to trust. And also, when you're trying to get into a space, that's where you see a lot of people doing that. You just want to make sure that you're telling the truth, basically. You know, if you're not telling the truth on your website and somebody hires you and you're not what you say you are, that is the worst thing ever, a bad review. And then just other things on your website, like, you know, stealing other people's content, other people's business models, like, and trying to replicate anything like that's not authentically yours. I mean, I know we all do the same thing, but it's very obvious when people take information off other people's websites, especially when it's very specific wording or design or anything like that. Because if people see that, they're going to question, is this real? Is this not real? I think a lot of people make the mistake of not showing your team. What are you ashamed of? What do you not want to show? You need to show your leadership. And then just in terms of like your website, just basic design things like not being mobile friendly, things not working, and you're not getting a response from different calls to actions, and just saying you're in a place that you're not, and then they find out you're not in this place, especially like in this country, because a lot of US companies don't want to work with companies in other countries just for security reasons. Those are just all the mistakes that you can make to really hurt your brand. Sometimes it's better to not get what you want right away. If you're going to try to fake it, it's better off to try to build a relationship with one client and just keep going that way versus just trying to misrepresent yourself. So, yeah, those are a lot of things that I see people making. Those are things I hear from clients when they come in, their experience talking to other agencies, like for us, and just in general, just be honest, show what you're worth, show your team, and try to help people the best you can. A lot of times we'll have people come to us and ask us for certain work, and we don't do that. We're not going to try to do that. We're not going to do that. We have a process that works for us. And if we did do it, we would be honest and say, hey, we don't normally do this, but we're like willing to try. And so part of it is not just your website too. Part of it is when they do contact you and you talk to people. If you're not telling the truth on your website or not being authentic, like that's going to catch up with you eventually.
I think on that, you could also kind of tell when people's websites are written by like a chat GPT or written by AI that Google one picks up on that and doesn't always love it, but you can tell. So using AI to the ability to kind of help you think about things, absolutely. You can do AI for research, but you want your website to sound real. You don't want to just copy from something that you put on there and be like, hey, what's my mission statement? Or write a mission statement for me. That's not authentic. AI doesn't know your company. They can't write your mission statement for you. How do you put in the information to sound like you? We had one biotech that instead of just saying contact us, they said let's chat because that's how the founders talked. How do you sound authentic? And that comes from writing your content and working on your content and making sure that it just feels real, as I think a way to identify too.
It makes sense. And I think telling a story is a place where there's really a strong overlap between what you do at Ladybugz and what we do here at Revenue Ops. I know from our side, we often come in after the lead's created. We're looking at what happens in the CRM, how are the leads routed,
Yes.
is sales following up, are campaigns attributed properly, and whether the data is telling a clear story. But the website is often where that process starts. Thinking about that, where do you see the biggest disconnect between website strategy and what happens after someone converts?
I think it's the follow up. You hear from so many people. My pre COVID career was in a different type of sales, and people want to hear from you quickly. Even in the agency world here, people want a response from quickly. And it could be, hey, let's set up a meeting for next week. But they want to have the ability to know that they're reaching you. And I think that's one of the first things in that sales ops side that you can do. So, one of the things when you have a contact form, do you also have a calendar link that people, if they don't want to fill out a form, where they could schedule an inquiry call for you because they might not want to fill out the form or they might not want to call you? How can you get it so that it's right on your calendar quickly so that they know when they can talk to you? And that follow up, I think, is so important. I look at studies and they say it could be up to 12 different touch points when you're doing a prospect before they even talk to you at all. So, where are they seeing you? Are you seeing them on socials? Are you responding to them quickly? Are you following up in a week? If they reached out to you, something made them reach out to you. And so if you respond back immediately and they don't continue that conversation, following up again and within a week, because if it's a real person, a real lead, something made them fill out that form. Life could have gotten busy, work could have gotten insane, your email could have gone to spam. So make that second one a phone call, or make your first one a phone call and your second one an email. I think that follow up is something that gets lost a lot of the time. And I think, Heather, that's where you talk a lot about the CRMs. In my mind, I've always kind of operated in if I won the lottery, not if I was hit by a bus, but if I won the lottery and was to magically not show up at work the next day, you should be able to, in my mind, look into our CRM and have access to my email, and our clients should be none the wiser. That if you're doing that good job in updating your CRM and saying, I sent an email to this person on this date, and your CRM kind of creates that next auto trace for you of, okay, call them again in this many days. That's where I think is so important to connect that human and using that technology and those operations together. If you're on the phone and you could hear their kids screaming in the background and they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, so and so sick today." And you're like, "Okay, let's get off the phone. Like, go focus on your kid. We'll talk next week." And you make a note of that. So that next week, when you call them back, you ask how their kid is. It's not that you have this magical memory, it's that you're using the tools. It's that personal connection that I think the operations and that kind of follow up once you get that lead is so key.
That's absolutely critical. And I'm really hoping that we can end our conversation today with some more practical takeaways that our listeners can take with them and use to make their companies better, their websites better, their revenue operations processes better. So, if you had to give some advice about one thing that listeners should do after this episode to make their website more strategic, what would that be?
Well, number one, make sure it's fast. If people can't get to it in a couple of seconds or what have you, they're gone. And just making sure that all of your call to actions are actually working and getting to your team. So making sure you have a CRM if you need one, but just making sure you are getting the information and that it's right. Those would be the two critical things, I think, before you even touch design or anything like
And I'd say look at that contact form. How can you ask as few things as possible while still getting just a little bit? So, is the message box that everyone has on their contact, does it just say leave us a message? Does it say tell us about your project? Tell us what you're looking for. What is that call to action that you have on your contact form? No one's going to fill out 10 different boxes. So, how can you make it as few as possible while still using the text there and that general box to ask the questions that you want the answers to help guide them and what you want them to say while doing it in one box?
Great advice. And personally, I think this has been such a great conversation. So, for our listeners who want to learn more about Ladybugz, where should they go and how can they connect with you?
Our website is ladybugz.com, and you could find us on all different socials. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're there both as Ladybugz and then as individuals, especially on LinkedIn.
Amazing. And Billy and Lisa, I want to thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate you sharing your perspective on how companies can think more strategically about their websites, not just as design projects, but as part of a larger growth engine. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Pipeline to Profit. If this episode was helpful, make sure to subscribe, share it with a colleague, and follow Revenue Ops for more conversations about building better systems, stronger pipelines, and more profitable growth. See you next time.